TIL, the once tasty red delicious type of apple, is now recognized as having declined sharply in quality. Supermarkets want its apple to last longer, but the best tasting juicy apples often go bad more quickly. Selective breeding practices change the red delicious into a more solid shiny apple. Not sure how selective breeding practices would change the apple. Every apple seed you plant produces a different resulting apple as the fruit of the offspring. It doesn't match the parent. So, it's pretty difficult to select apple parents of desired traits, and crossbreed them to get something you want. They may have tossed seed and gotten an apple that looked close, but it's not really a red delicious. It's another cultivar that they swapped the label to. All of the same apple cultivars, Honeycrisp, Granny Smith, etc., are clones cuttings that are grafted onto rootstock. We had one in our backyard when I was growing up. Part of my memory remembers how good they were, while the rest remembers what a pain in the ass they were. Applesauce served with everything, dropping bags of apples on neighbors' porks every day. I went back for my 25th class reunion a few years ago and stopped by the house to see if we could pick some apples, and the taste was so much better than what we get in the stores today. I was fortunate to have a former truck farm that still had red delicious growing there, along with several other varieties. I no longer live there, and now I really can't stand the supermarket apples. Another item that has suffered is the tomato. They are harvested green and exposed to a chemical that causes them to be redder earlier than ripeness would cause. I caught one store using overhead red lights to enhance their color. They're terrible. I ate one fresh off of a tree at a local orchard many years ago, which are usually amazing compared to what you get in a store, and I couldn't figure out where it got its name. It's red, but it is absolutely not delicious. It's a 1-2 bushel full of nothing but Honeycrisp all the way for me, until they figure out how to fuck those up too. I was under the impression from Michael Pollan's book that you cannot breed apples because they are heterozygous, and instead all of the apples that we eat today are from grafts of random plants that someone found via luck. Are these apples just being picked early, or are they actually different? There is a cheap apple that comes in bags from Walmart here, super cheap. I don't remember the name of them. They are somehow dry. I mean, when you bite into it, there is no juice. It leaves you feeling very thirsty. When you squeeze any part of it, it just indents and no juice comes out. This happens all the time with fruit. Bananas are a great example. I used to live in the Pacific Islands, where GMO doesn't exist. The bananas were freaking amazing. Now that I'm back home Australia and bananas are fucking awful, while they stay yellow for longer they taste like ass. Yep, red delicious is solely for show. Its texture is something like sandpaper and tofu. Its flavor is something like the hint of the aroma of what was once a drop of apple juice spread out over a 10-foot radius. Used to like Honeycrisp the best, but slowly moving to Cosmic Crisp. Same with tomatoes. Grab a pack of heirloom tomato seeds and plant them in full sun and quality soil, and you will be so confused when you eat them. They will be so savory, sweet and flavorful that you'll roll your eyes when you see supermarket tomatoes for the rest of your life. Is this true? I didn't think you could selectively breed apples. Every time you grow a new apple tree from a seed, it's a complete hop shoot. Apples don't produce seeds that yield the apple it came from. So you can't really selectively breed. Or so I was led to believe. When I was a kid back in the 60s, red delicious were my favorite apple. Now every one I've tried for years has been texturally unpleasant, almost mealy. I still buy one or two every year in hopes of getting one that has that juicy snap I remember from decades ago. I have not experienced this at all. My favorite apples, Honeycrisps, seem to last a month in the bottom of my produce drawer, and I have never come across a sweeter apple except for probably Golden Ladies, but they are basically the same in flavor and longevity. I feel like the Honeycrisp has started the same decline. I had some early ones a decade ago that we did sure for, but never since. They were from a farmer's market, so it also might have been they were picked for and fresh rather than refrigerated for months. Went on an elementary school field trip to an apple orchard in the 90s and got to try a few varieties straight off the tree. I remember the red delicious not being a misnomer. Of course, this was a small, family-owned orchard which no longer exists. I feel like a lot of fruit has gotten less tasty. Bananas are good if they're organic, but I swear the non-organic always have a kind of metallic taste to them. Grapes, plums, peaches and oranges all seem more bitter than they used to be. Many of the fruits vegetables we buy in the store have been altered for a longer storage shelf life. Sadly, that can have a negative effect on taste and nutritional value. I try to buy local and ideally heritage varieties when possible. I haven't had a good tasting apple in years. About the only one that is enjoyable is a Macintosh, and those need cooler nights, so will be harder to come by in the near future. Who cares if it lasts longer if I don't want to eat it? I'm 57 and this was the first apple I can remember, and they have always been mealy and disgusting. As a child I thought I just hated apples until I had a real apple from a tree and realized apples could be wonderful. I swear to God, the only places that buy red delicious apples are prisons, schools, the military, and set designers in film and TV. You know? Where you don't give a damn how it tastes because it's not your problem. Okay, so I am not losing it. I used to buy red delicious all the time, but quit doing so about a decade or so because they were never quite as good as when I was younger. Before they were my favorite to eat. I don't know that type of apple, it sounds so American lol. We have one of those, I think, a pink lady. But any apple at the supermarket tastes shitty emo. I get them directly from farmers, much cheaper too. The original red delicious still exists. It's an apple variety from Iowa called Hawkeye. Hard to come by but very good and definitely worth a try to see what all the fuss was about with red delicious. If you want a good apple that's that classic red color, Cosmic Crisps are really good. They are a new breed only released to the market in 2019. You can thank Washington State University for it. I didn't eat apples for years because of those mealy, tasteless things. Then I started reading about the new varieties Cosmic Crisp, Snapdragon, etc. and decided to try some. They are amazing. We went to a pick-it-yourself orchard in the NC Mountains last year and their red delicious was ripe. We were shocked that they really were delicious. Must have been an old school variety. Red delicious are masked now. But I wasn't always. Time comes for you, too. Be what rots away is dead. I vote Cosmic Crisps and Pink Ladies as the best varieties currently available in the US. Cardboard doesn't go bad as fast as tasty fruit does. Grocers love red delicious, which looks like an apple but tastes in stores like cardboard. Why people buy them, I don't know. Red delicious a Great Depression apple and it is worthless. I cannot be swayed on this. Red Dells are grainy, prone to fast spoil and bruise insanely easy. Gross beyond reproach. I've always wondered who really liked those. Golden Delicious are easily better tasting if you had to choose between the two. Then there are plenty of other types that are better. My GF and I try to sample as many apple varieties as possible and we've consistently landed on Envy as our favorite. Just a tip for y'all curious as anyone else feels the same. With so many new varieties out there, why are we making a big fuss out of Red Delicious? A Cosmic Crisp, Sugar Bee, or Honey Crisp apple will last forever and tastes amazing. I thought you couldn't breed apples? I.e. you cross two apples and you get a third that is completely random? With apples you randomly get a good one and then keep cloning it. So it wasn't just my imagination. I really hate most supermarket apples nowadays and remember fondly the ones I had as a kid. Except Fuji apples, all the others taste bad. Always thought they would be an apple people would use for cooking, baking, but not to eat raw as much, because they are boring. Always thought the skin was too thick also. Most apples, pears, and peaches available in my stores taste like unripe melons. They are fully hydrated to get the max price per pound with little or no flavor. Cosmic Crisp, we'd like a word. I hear it can last a year in a refrigerator, unless it happens to lose power during one of the worst snowstorms in Texas history. Damn, I have asked people if these apples tasted differently than they used to. They are definitely bigger now. Apple pies have also declined in quality. Sad. I'm a part of the Honey Crisp and Cosmic Crisp gang. Don't think I've had but a handful of Red Delicious in my life that were good, and that was decades ago. The same thing has happened with strawberries. Red Delicious were cultivated for their appearance and someone forgot about the taste. They're horrible. Red Delicious skin is like leather, the meat is bland and dry. Barely good enough for baking. You want a sweet, juicy, crisp apple? Cosmic Crisp FDW. Nothing lies more than that particular fruit moniker. The driest, most mealy, taste desert imaginable. Might as well be plucked from a wax arrangement. Go get your apples at a local orchard. Every apple I eat from mine is delicious and you get to pick the biggest juiciest bastard right off the tree. Isn't this literally the case for every apple we eat? They were all created through selective grafting and breeding of bitter shit apples in nature. Yeah, pretty much most produced these days is rare airy refrigerated early harvest shit that tastes like the echo memory of its former deliciousness. Wasn't the story supposed to be that the gene responsible for the crisp texture and sweet taste was also the gene that prevented more durable fruit? Whenever I buy apples nowadays it's either Pink Ladies or Fuji apples. Red Delicious are just boring. What a bummer too. The name is so misleading. Red Delicious apples have never tasted good to me, even as a child. It's like eating bites of dirt and sand in texture, and nearly that in taste. I wish I could buy more mealy apples. These sour crisp apples suck. I have to leave them on the counter for like a month before they get good. Gala is still my favorite. If you get good ones, they stay nice and firm for a long time in the fridge but keep their crisp refreshing taste. Okay, but now can we talk about the Macintosh apple? I hated apples as a kid until I had something besides the horrible school Macintosh apples. My mom's house has a bunch of fruit trees. One of them is some breed of Red Delicious. The difference between the two is remarkable. That's what happens when you breathe the sugar out of them. Less spoilage due to fewer metabolic processes, but it reduces the taste. In addition, grocers and shoppers wanted the pure red apples in the gene which gave a yellow coloration also provided flavor. Never heard of a Cosmic Crisp until reading these comments. I'll try to keep an eye out for them next time we get groceries. Red Delicious were amazing in the 90s. It was my favorite apple. Now it's just too mealy and doesn't have the same taste. I've been wondering why apples in my lifetime have changed. From delicious juicy fruits to eating essentially a red carrot. Eat a Fuji or a pink lady apple. Red Delicious has been crap for a very long time. They weren't even good when I was a kid. Man, I thought I was strange cause my dad loves these things and got upset when my mom would buy green ones instead. Lamau. Red Gold Delicious have always been the worst apples. This is not new. I'm 54. They were always trash apples. All my homies dropped the Red Delicious for the Honey Crisp years ago. The Red Delicious had always been too mealy. They are doing this to almost every fruit. All the fruits were seasonal when I was growing up and it tasted good.